about to get into a little something, get into like a full, how I think about it, just a little bit of a hype kind of thing. But then I realized that the entire idea of what I was just thinking, not an original thought at all. I'm just regurgitating what we all heard, what was it, maybe 10 years ago, with that Shia LaBeouf, don't let your dreams be dreams, just do it. If you know what I'm talking about, truer words have been spoken, but I didn't get the message. I definitely didn't get the message when he made that video. I was a bit younger, and if not early high school, maybe even middle school when he said that. But that shit's freaking true. As much as we can sit here and, I've done this, I don't know how many times, even back when I was younger. And really, younger isn't even the proper term. I think the proper term should be smaller. Back when I was still getting chest pumps in my high school weight room during my study hall, when I could go down to the weight class and the guy would let me work out, and I'd go into the bathroom and then hit like a little side chest and some lat spreads and stuff. Even going back then to now, I still think about it now. Just getting yourself amped up to the idea of something, and if you do that, let's describe this, or imagine this. You're thinking about hitting an insane PR. You're thinking about just going crazy. When you imagine something like this, like when you imagine going for it, when you imagine hitting a crazy leg day, you never imagine the negatives. You're never thinking to yourself, oh yeah, it really would be hard and I'd be out of breath. No, you're only thinking hype, excitement, however the best way to put it, the coolness factor of whatever it is you're thinking about. And it's also idealized, so your imagined version of yourself is a little extra big, a little extra strong, is going to perform a bit extra well. I'm sure if you anybody who played football in high school or college would definitely imagine themselves making the freaking insane one-hander catch, game-ending touchdown, which maybe they've never even done in practice. And that's a good feeling. Just the imagination of that is a very good feeling. Now, is it an imagined feeling? Sort of. So that's where you want to, a lot of the things that I think about are two-sided contrarian takes, both for and against the same thing, right? Because when it comes to that, like imagining where you're going to be in the future and how cool it's going to be, I do want to do that. I do want to imagine what that would be like. Just knowing that that's on the horizon gets me going. But I can't imagine that all the time. I want to be focused on the present moment and trying to make sure that I'm on track to get there. I've got big ass fitness goals in the sense of, I guess fit. If my goal was really to be totally fit, I'd be like, probably 200, doing more CrossFit, athletic work. So at least with my muscle gaining goals, dude, I want to get big and fucking strong. I want to put some muscle on. I want the next time I diet down to look like a total freak with more muscular density. That's kind of just, for my sake, because I like that. But, I've got shit on the horizon far into the future that I want to work on. But as much as I want to think about all this cool shit that's ahead, I got to focus on what's going on right now, right? Like this freaking chest day this morning, followed by some cardio once I get home and eat a little bit of food. I think that's a good combo for me right now. Morning workout, come home and eat a big post-workout meal, and then once I've kind of digested for a minute, doing some post-workout meal cardio. Low intensity, steady state, I'm not running, but that's how I'm going to kind of go about it going forward. For now, at least. That's not set in stone, but at least the next couple of days. But just don't catch yourself daydreaming too much. Don't catch yourself getting off on the idea and then not actually trying to make it happen. Because those two mental states of being, like if I could somehow attach 10 different anodes to somebody's head or whatever, like, you know, brainwave reading sensors that would read like excitement, pleasure, annoyance, boredom, like those 4 readings on like a bar chart or something. If you told them, you know, imagine winning a marathon, imagine thousands of people, and you know the person's like really into it, so they're actually imagining like what it would look like to win a fucking crazy marathon. Everybody's screaming for you. There's confetti, that, you know, all positive, all everything. I'm sure boredom and annoyance all the way down to 0, and you know that pleasure, excitement, coolness response is going to be way up at the top, you know, because it's like, oh, that's going to be so cool, you know. So if thinking about something, if thinking about your end goal gives you those feelings, you think that that's all you got to do. And if the only thing you think about is that end goal, or when you think about it every so often, it gets you so excited and, you know, amped and ready to get after it. But now let's tell the person, okay, you can do that. It's going to take you about 4 years, and you're going to, you know, run however many miles a week a marathoner runs, probably at least 40, I'm certain. You know, even just people who are maybe not competitive marathon runners, but I've one of my old diving coaches, I remember she would always come in and talk about all the, like, however many miles she ran this week. You know, and for me, it's like, just the sound of it was like nuts. So now put the guy on a treadmill and say, all right, you can run 12 miles right now, and you're going to do this for the next 3 years, or whatever. I don't know the growth rate of that kind of like marathon-based training, but during the practice of it, I think that coolness factor and the like the pleasure response in the guy's brain is going to be a bit lower, and then the annoyance, boredom factor is probably going to be way up, right? I mean, you know, put anybody on a treadmill, even me a little bit, I'm sure I don't love it. I'm sure I don't love doing cardio. Like just sitting on the bike, pedaling for 30 minutes, it's not really that exciting. So you've got to have this resilience to the lack of that pleasure response and the lack of that, you know, imagined dopamine spike, right? You got to just be able to know that that's on the horizon later, and not be so attached to it. But for the workouts themselves, I don't have to worry about that. You know, for me, the workouts are the fun part, even more so than the results that I get from them, you know? Like, let's say somehow I got, like, I don't know, I got tricked by like a genie or something, and I had a wish, but it got tricked around, and I could never gain another pound of muscle in my life. I'd still probably keep working out. For one, just to maintain whatever my build is currently, because I can still do that. That doesn't go against the wish, but purely just due to the fact that coming in and getting a freaking chest pump, it's just fun for me, you know? So that's where I'm a bit spoiled. I don't have this huge drop off from like an imagined state of being, at least for the workouts themselves, versus my real state of being when I come in here. And that's not just because I'm like, you know, pretty advanced hypertrophy wise now. Even back when I was 170, or even before that, when I was 160, when I was in the 160s, this is middle of 2018, I had a bench, 2 squat stands, a barbell, and 300 pounds worth of weights, because I assume that's what you could basically buy as a set. A 45, a 35, a 25, a 10, a 5, and a 2.5, or something like that, and it all adds up to 300. I remember just doing, I couldn't even do, I couldn't bench 200 when I started. I don't remember what my 1 rep max was at the time, but somewhere I've got a set of me doing, it might have been 185, maybe, and, you know, I'm just hitting flat bench in my parents' basement. And I felt like a total beast back then too, because I, you know, as much as I knew I wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, like I still wanted to get bigger, I still wanted to grow, but just knowing that I was, just the feeling of training, like knowing that what I'm doing currently is going to give me results in the future, plus just training is fucking cool. Throwing some shit around, feeling strong in the moment, exerting yourself. If somehow I was completely banned from touching a weight again, different genie example, I would still have to get into something, like some sort of physical outlet. Maybe I'm just not civilized enough to stay at home and sit in a computer all day. But just moving, we're not that much more advanced than, however many years ago it was that the average day was trying to spear hunt a woolly mammoth, right? Just because we've got iPhones and Nintendo Switches doesn't mean we're still not wired for that sort of, kind of active lifestyle. But now I'm just getting into all sorts of random shit. But let's narrow down our focus to the workout. So for chest, I want to do some heavy sets. I want to move some weight. Not necessarily, as much weight as I've ever moved, but I want to move as much weight as I can today, because that's going to let me come back for the next chest day. And, maybe I warm up, my shoulders feel good, and I start with some incline dumbbell bench today. Maybe I only do the 130's for 10 or something. I'm not sure. Well, I'll see how I feel. But even if I only do lighter weight than I've ever done for less reps than I've ever done, since I'm still on this strength rebound after prep, I'm going to come back the next chest day, maybe not even stronger. To say I come back stronger isn't exactly accurate, because maybe it's not like I grew any muscle, but I'm just getting more used to throwing that weight around. So it's a pretty good feeling for me, because it's like I've got strength that's dormant and I'm just reawakening it. Like next leg day, or next quad day specifically, the set of squats will be much wilder than this past quad day. I did 4 plates for 11. I could have done more too, but I was starting to feel my lower back a little bit. Not spinal, not like a what's the word? Not like a slipped disc or like a pinched nerve or anything, but I could just tell that my erectors, those basically my lower back muscles, were starting to weaken a little. And if you're ever squatting and you can tell that your bracing ability, like your ability to, stay tight and keep your lower back, it doesn't have to be completely straight, but keep it stiffly, able to withstand load. As soon as your lower back starts to give out, that's when you're going to ask for trouble. That's where you might have like a little bit of a pinch at the bottom, or something like that. But just from having done 4 plates for 11, which I have not done for months, I'm going to come back and, I don't even want to give myself a weight rep number, because I don't want to put a limit on my mind. But either way, it'll be crazy. It's been a long time since I've had a nose bleeding set. Really, I think the last time was back in college. It was like the middle of winter, so the air was just really dry. So I was just already having nosebleeds anyway. But it does, if you've ever squatted and seen yourself bleeding right in front of the mirror as you're doing reps, it is a pretty crazy feeling. But I assume there will be no blood today. So some heavy pressing, some lighter squeezing pressing, either on the converging press, plate loaded, or just bent over on the cable, maybe up on the incline bench in the cable. I'm not totally sure, but I do have my roster of go-to movements, and I'll be able to pick between them quite well. Getting a little anxious. I'm stopped right over the train tracks because of all this traffic. I think I'm alright though. I'd see if something was coming. But yeah, it should not take more than 45 minutes for this workout to conclude. Not that I'm trying to rush it, but it's like, how long does it really take to get a crazy pump? Heavy set, takes 10 minutes to warm up, and that's like warming up for the whole workout. A few minutes between sets, pose down, I'll be fully pumped definitely before 9 sets. If it ends up going to 8 or so, that's fine by me, but I'm not really aiming for a specific set number. It's more like a sensation. you know, and I get that sensation of knowing, like, all right, my chest is destroyed. Usually around 8-ish, as long as I bring it. But how about we stop talking about it and actually freaking make it happen? So let's get started. This is a feeling I haven't felt for quite a while. Oh, one more. Oh, whew. Whew. Okay. Oh. Let's move on. Oh, shit. All right, the feeler rep of 3 plates felt very doable. So let's see if I can do 4. Now, I'm not worried I'm going to like tweak anything, but if I only get like 3 reps, that isn't a junk set. I'm just going to stand up, strip a plate off, and make it a drop set. So just because you overestimate your weight doesn't mean you have to just cut the set short, right? Just take a little bit of weight off and keep going. But let me get amped up here. Okay. Yeah, a little too much. Okay. Oh, okay. Ooh. Let's just do another set with 3 plates and then move on. Ooh, that one was pushing it. A little lighter will do me good. All right. Okay. Let's go jump on the cables. Ooh. Actually, now let's do the pack deck first and probably finish with the cables. Yeah. 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 One more. And then cable press will be it, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go hit the cables. All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. Holy shit. Let's do one more, just a little bit lighter. And I think that'll be all she pumped. All right. Ooh. Okay. All right. Let's find some lighting and see how Chess is looking pumped after having reunited with the 150's. Okay, now that was a proper chest pump. Some hefty pressing, free weights, followed by hefty pressing with that machine. And even then, really pushing it weight-wise, enough where I had to do a drop set, which I think added to the workout, did not subtract from it. Some solid flies, very good stretch-based work. Like, I'm really feeling it at the back down here, to the point where it almost feels like my chest is turning into this big rubber band because it's getting so pumped that it just wants to pull the weight back. And then finishing with some hand-over-hand squeezing work. I mean, shit, you know, I'm no mathematician, but that equation sounds like it adds up to a pretty damn good lift. And subsequently, a pretty damn good pump, that's for sure. So let me back up a touch so the lighting isn't so crazy. But, yeah, I mean, I'm feeling like a freaking beefcake, that's for sure. one most muscular for the road, and then we can scram. Yo. Ooh. Yeah. And I'm finally fucking sweating again. Yeah, that's maybe you can't really tell, but this shirt is not dry. That's one thing I kind of missed about all of these dieting workouts in prep, is they just weren't all that freaking intense, you know? Like, just enough to maintain and not overdo it. But shit, I feel like I'm hardwired to overdo it. Like, that's the fun part. But let's jump in the car, head back to the crib. All right, that is a very good sign. That is a very good sign. So even though I haven't been doing anything hefty for chest for quite a while, I'm talking quite a few months, you can get some carbs back in your system and let yourself over-recover from workouts rather than just maintain while you're dieting. Oh, I think the 160's are on the freaking horizon. The last time I ever tried to do the 160's, that's only special to me, but I've been seeing geese around here for the last like 2 months, and then 5 yellow little goslings with that family. That's nice. I was just asking somebody when the freaking geese were gonna hatch. I don't know why that made me laugh so much, but yeah, the 160's I think will happen, and not purely for the sake of doing them. Right? I mean, let's fast forward of 2 months. 150's for 20? Pretty, honestly, it's simply going to happen. It's not even really a question. Just as I get more exposed to the weight, and, you know, I'm able to handle that much load with, you know, pretty legit reps. You can't really, I mean, you know, I've done some arguably half rep dumbbell bench beforehand, or what am I saying, before, but I'm not going to get a complete total lockout. There is definitely a top and a bottom where you've got tension, you know, so use your best judgment. I've been seeing a lot of guys posting squat PRs, and it's, you know, it's rough. I'm seeing barely any, well, you know what I'm talking about, like really a half rep. But if it gets to that point where, you know, 160 for 10 is a feasible working set, I don't really see a problem, you know? And I think that's, it's kind of a twofold argument, because obviously I'm never going to do 200s. Maybe that's not obvious, but I don't plan on ever trying to do the 200-pound dumbbells for incline bench. But also it's like, you know, what's even necessary to stimulate your chest to grow it, you know? And when it comes to anything under 6 reps, I'm not so inclined to lean towards it. I think that's kind of just pure strength building. I mean, it's still a good working set, but if I'm trying to grow my chest, I'd rather do the stuff that I'm doing today, like these 12 reps, you know, 15, 20, whatever, and not 6. Plus, I mean, you might just freaking hurt yourself too. Unless you're more of an actual powerlifter character where you're used to that low of a rep range and that much, you know, let's just call it tendon tension. Like if somebody said, all right, Sam, we're doing a 1 rep bench PR, let's warm up, you know, get warm. I mean, even if I physically could move the weight muscularly, the fact that I never go that low in reps, I mean, there's no way I'm leaving unscathed if I really tried to go as crazy as possible. But a 10 rep PR, a 10 rep weight PR with weight that I've never done before, I'm cool with that, because that rep range isn't in the danger zone, I would say. You know, so if you've actually worked up to it over the course of however many months or years that you've been training, and you can do 225, let's say you can do 225 for 12, I don't think you're going to hurt yourself by going for, you know, 245 for a working set with a spot. And then, you know, maybe you only get 8, and then you have the guy help you with 2 assisted. I think that's a good set. But, you know, there's a fine line between heavy progressive overload, I'm trying to take this set to a new level, and pure ego lifting. You know, it's they're close. But as long as your form is solid and you can actually handle the weight, you're not just purely manhandling it and kind of like flopping it around in a gross way, which, we know the difference, then I think you're good, because as much as it doesn't necessarily matter, more muscle can handle more weight, and vice versa. And that's most true as a beginner. So if you're the kind of guy who's, your starting position is you're a bit heavier, maybe you're 200, 220, but untrained, so you've got to work on some body fat loss in the beginning. No need to start with just a straight up cut. In the beginning of anybody's lifting phase, hit your protein and train like a freak. Really just go as hard as you can. And maybe you might not notice physically the fact that you just gained, in a month. Let's take an 18-year-old dude. He's never worked out before. 18-year-old dude, never worked out before. He's been eating just a regular guy's diet, which isn't really, muscle growth focused. And let's say for a month, we put him on real maintenance calories, steaks, ground beef, eggs. He's hitting his actual protein requirements, 180 grams of protein. And he came in and did push-pull legs legit. Maybe he had a few days of getting introduced to all the movements so that he knows what he's doing. But push-pull legs, 6 times a week, 4 weeks. I think the guy could gain 5 pounds. Now, that's not 5 pounds of pure muscle. A couple pounds, probably maybe 3, might just be intramuscular fluids, which when you're a stronger person and you're more active, you definitely hold a bit more. Physically, your muscle cells themselves and the fibers will hold more water and fluids, which isn't just water. It's like, sarcoplasm and glycogen and, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, man, you can gain 5 pounds in a month. Now, if you're a heavier dude, you might not notice those 5 pounds, but you will notice your increase in strength. If at first curling the 25s for 10 was like you're going as hard as you can possibly go for that 10th rep and you can't get an 11th, for one, badass set if that's actually the case. But at the end of that month, you're going to be doing 2 25-pound dumbbells for 20. I'd be surprised if somebody wasn't. Now, I don't know, you got to look up some stuff like strength calculator to, really get estimates about that kind of thing. But yeah, man, you can make very substantial changes in your ability pretty quickly. So as a beginner, if you're saying, all right, last week I did 25s for 10, this week I want 30s for 10, something like that. Just trying to make sure you bring it a little more on a lift by lift basis. It's going to work, right? Now that's assuming that you're actually bringing it. The only problem that I have with the idea of really accurate, like notebook-based progressive overload, where people are going to say, okay, I did 225 for 10 last week. My program says that this week I can do 235 for 10. The logic is sound, right? Because you've done a weight that's pretty close to that the last week. You ate a certain amount of food, so you should have recovered a bit over that course of time. But I think that, tracking it like that doesn't show the whole picture, because what if on that 225 for 10, you really felt like trash? Maybe you overcame a sickness. Maybe mentally you were just kind of, out of it a little bit. You got a lot of different stuff to focus on. Right now, if you're still in school, you got finals, you got different projects and stuff. Maybe the guys in your group project all suck and you have to be like the dude who's really carrying it. Not ideal. That could distract you. So maybe that 225 for 10 was an encumbered 225 for 10. So now that you've come back the next week and you're fresh and you rested well and you just, you're relaxed, your cortisol's down, you're freaking ready to go. Well, 235 for 10 might be nothing. Now, not nothing, but it might be well within your ability. So I want to take that into account. If I know I'm feeling fresh and strong, I want to take that into consideration during my workouts and say, all right, I feel really good. Let's make hay while the sun's shining, do a really heavy set, right? Like today, freaking 4 plates on that hamstring press, that's heavy. That's close to as heavy as I've ever lifted on that machine, for reps. But if I come in for the next chest day and I say, ooh, my shoulder feels a little something, maybe I'm a little dehydrated for whatever reason, then I also want to take that into consideration and say, I better back off a little, you know. But I always want to kind of have mentality's not even the right word, but I want to go about the workouts with a strong value system that I want, at least in the sense of these heavier sets, to be taken as far as I can. You know, if I was a little bit, well, let's fast forward 2 months. Let's say I'm not even substantially stronger in this hypothetical. With those 150s, just from having done them for, you know, multiple workouts in a row, I'll be better at getting partials out right in the end. Like those last few, or, you know, go back to the last off season. I mean, when I'm fully bulked, I'm doing the 150s for, I don't know, maybe 15 good reps, and then I'm getting 8 partials, just like, you know, inches of range of motion, because that's all I can do. Whereas this workout, it kind of ended sort of abruptly. I got like 2 partials, and then it just wasn't moving. So, you know, it's like every set I've got this wet rag, and I'm trying to wring out every drop. And the first few drops, or the first splash of water, that's nothing. Everybody can get that splash out. But I want it to be to the point where when I unring it, this thing is dry. There's literally nothing left. And having analogies like that in your head, I think really help you enact it in your sets, you know? So if let's say you got a crew at your gym, and maybe you guys are a pretty tight crew, so you end up chatting a bit. You know, between set chatting, I do not mind it at all. Like I'm saying for me, not if I see someone else chatting, that's whatever. But, you know, when I was back at the rec center, I mean, that was freaking social hour, because it was like the same group every day, and everybody's bringing it, which was extra cool. But, you know, so I'd be chatting it up. All right, I got to do my set. Take a seat, take some breaths, kind of center yourself. You know, there's nothing else in the world going on except you and these dumbbells, you and this pec deck, you and whatever. Get a song playing. And even just from doing that, like, even if I had no music, just sitting and, you know, that would just freaking get you going. So that's definitely going to help in terms of your preset prep. Don't go into it half-hearted. You know, I've seen guys where they're saying they're going for a PR. Now, this isn't like a super advanced guy, but I mean, shit, a 250-pound bench PR is not nothing, of course. And as he's getting ready for the rep, he's like in his pre-rep little protocol, if you want to call it that. He's sitting there talking to the guy spotting him about, you know, whatever he's talking about, not the rep, not anything. And it's like, really, are you really in the best headspace to hit a PR? Like, what are you doing here? And if that's what you're really doing, this is like your entire being is trying to be forced just into your ability to lift this one rep. So that's where you're having a proper headspace, I think, can really change up your workouts. You know, I'm not saying you've got to be, you know, walking around and mean mugging everybody with your hood up, Skull Crusher Evos on the outside, just blaring, you know. I'm not saying you got to do that, but for your real sets, you know, I don't want anything else going through my mind. That's how I think about it. And then afterward, you kind of snap back to reality and you say, "Holy crap, that was a good set." Catch your breath and, you know, do it again. So that's my end statement there, as a little check yourself before you plateau yourself, at least in terms of your training. But I was thinking about this a little bit after the workout, kind of getting back into what I was talking about with the Shia LaBeouf thing, and how you just gotta fucking do it, freaking do it. I was kind of thinking about if someone locked me in a room. So this is kind of a tip for anybody who it doesn't really have that same itch for the gym. You know, if somebody locked me in a room, or let's say I was, I don't even know, just this total, like, my food's taken care of, I have access to entertainment, but for 2 hours a day I have to practice the piano. Right now, since I don't know how to fucking play the piano, that'd probably suck, you know? So I gotta I gotta learn shit, I gotta be a beginner, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I'm having no fun. I have no positive feedback from the activity. which I think is a position a lot of people are in with the gym itself, because they just, haven't done it enough to get better at it. Imagine you got one friend who tells you, like, hey man, you wanna play Street Fighter? Here, I got it on my PlayStation, or something. And he's awesome at it, and you suck just because you've never played it before. And then the guy's hitting like 10 combos in a row, instantly KOing you. Well, you're not going to have any fun, right? So I think we've got enough of a delayed gratification kind of understanding, where you could imagine it would probably get more fun the better you get at it, right? So for any, if you know anybody who's kind of on the fritz about the gym, where they're kind of, man, I don't want to do that, man. That's not what I'm into. I don't like that. It's like, well, yeah, nobody really likes doing anything that they've never done before. Sure, there's a novelty factor where just doing anything new is, kind of fun and exciting. But if you know somebody who's kind of like a gym hater, just take that into context. It's like, have they ever done it before? You're not going to know how cool it is until you actually get into the full swing of things. So if that's you, and maybe somebody just sent you this video and said, hey dude, Sam just started the bulk, man. He's done doing his competition. We should both bulk at the same time. Right? Just wait a little bit. It's kind of a Stockholm syndrome approach, that's not the right word, but that sort of logic, where the fact that doing pec deck and bench to failure burns your chest, and at first you take that as a discomfort, and you're like, oh, I don't fucking like that. Give it some time, and you'll learn to like it. Which, I mean, for the uninitiated would sound crazy. It's like, no, you don't get it. You want to feel like you're going to pass out after a set of squats. That means you're doing it right. Like I can understand the learning curve there, but just give it some time, because once you build up momentum, you get to ride the momentum, and then it just turns into an activity, not a chore. I even back as a beginner, and this is where I really lucked out, just finding the gym. It's not like I discovered it. Everybody's already into it since the friggin' 50s, but I really lucked out, because even day one, I'm like, this is the shit. And I don't think I've lost, if anything, I've just gained more enjoyment from it over time. But when I look at myself at 160 doing a side chest, man, I know that at the moment I'm thinking, yeah, hell yeah. And I still think that now, even though I'm like almost 100 pounds heavier. So that's fun. But awesome chest day. I'm excited for the next one. And I'm excited for the chest day after that to infinity. So now I got to do is get some food in my system, and then get ready for back tomorrow. Yeah, some back will be nice. One thing I realized is I like to spread out my two probably favorite lifts. And I like to think that I'm unbiased, but I love chest and arms. A chest day and an arm day are S tier. Now, I am unbiased, because I like them all, and I do them all, and I do not skip any, and I don't, I'm not going to treat one lift any better or worse than the other. But there's something about a chest day, man. It's just freaking awesome. So I'm glad I do. I like that I have those two split up. So it's chest, back, arms, legs, so that it kind of, keeps things interesting throughout the week. But yeah, so nothing else to say. Morning weight was 243. But I think I know why. Since I just finished legs, I think my legs were still residually inflamed and a little bit swollen this morning. Like they looked a little bit pumped compared to normal. So if they're inflamed and I'm not limiting my water, then that would mean that my quads have kind of siphoned a bit of fluids from my frame, and then I replenished the rest of it. So that's not just 4 pounds of regular weight. I think post legs, I'm always going to have a little weight spike, just from the fact that they're going to be residually pumped even the next day. But yeah, nothing else to say. So I will see you tomorrow.